Choose your guests wisely. The wildest wedding I've ever attended. So a couple of years back, my boyfriend and I were invited to an ex-co-worker's wedding. The co-worker and I had been very close when we worked together, had kept in touch after, and I was super excited to attend. A few of my co-workers, past and present, had also been invited, and we heard it was supposed to be crazy fancy, like ball gown fancy, Middle Eastern wedding, and the boyfriend and I love getting all dressed up, so even better. The cast is as follows. Obviously my BF and myself, the rest are female co-workers and their significant others. I made the first letters of each couple's names the same to make it easier to follow. Jennifer and James, Rebecca and Ron, Idina and Edmund, Sarah and Scott, Kendra and Keith. Then of course the bride and groom, but they honestly don't show up much in this story. So this wedding was a couple of hours outside our city. The boyfriend and I had a few weddings already this month, including one the night before, so we were planning on driving back home that night to save some money on the hotel. I would get to drink with my co-workers and my BF would DD. When we get there, we meet in the J's room to get changed, and they insist we stay the night in their room when they find out our plan to drive back. They have a suite with a pull-out couch, and their bedroom has a door on it. We very gratefully accept and offer to split the room with them. I honestly can't remember at this time if they accepted or not. Too much happened later on. So we get to the venue all dolled and dressed up, and damn. The place is a literal ballroom, and there is a seafood bar set up. We dig in thinking this is dinner, but nope. This is just an appetizer of sorts. We are white and the wedding we went to the night before was in a barn, and sleeping accommodations were camping tents. Cut us some slack. A beautiful 5-course meal follows. There is live music, money is being thrown in the air, and literally swept into piles just outside the dance floor. The bride and groom walks out, and the bride looks stunning, and walks into the venue to a song that was important to her. And I'm bawling, and she sees me smile crying, and waves to me. That was her and I's only interaction the whole night aside from a quick photo of all of us outside. She went and sat up on a throne of sorts with her husband. I meant to go up and talk to her, congratulate them, but this is where the drama starts. After the food comes out, and the bride and groom got settled, the booze started flowing. I know my co-workers, I see them 5 days a week, and have them all on Facebook. I should have known better. I know for a fact that 2 out of the 5 couples are in a hot mess of a relationship with alcohol and substance abuse. 2 others are more like a warm mess. And the last one, Idina and Edmund, are pretty fucking perfect to be honest. Extremely kind to each other and themselves, and stay in their lanes. Rebecca and Ron are by far the worst. They almost immediately get drunk and start drama with each other. Ron wasn't even supposed to come with Rebecca because of how awful he always was with sneaking off to go do drugs, and Rebecca's reaction was to get shit-faced, scream and cry the whole night. He had apparently insisted on coming. Ron did what Ron does, and Rebecca started going around to anyone who would listen to tell them about all her issues with Ron. Unfortunately, one of those people was a now drunk Jennifer. Now, I love Jennifer to bits, I truly do, but drunk her reverts back to her hick upbringing, and she suddenly wants to fight everyone, and so does her boyfriend. It's like they are a trashy version of Gomez and Morticia when drunk. So now, Rebecca is drunkenly crying outside, Jennifer is comforting her, Kendra is drunken moral support. Sitting, smiling, nodding, falling over. We have no idea where Sarah and Scott are. I'm just there, observing. Because at this point I'm feeling like getting drunk myself is not a good idea. I wander back inside to dance with my boyfriend, trying to make the best of the night. Also, I spent a decent amount on the dress, and it's twirly, and I'm gonna twirl, god damn it. We also discover the dessert bar, which spans the entire lobby. I have truly never seen this much dessert in one place, including the most beautiful sight. Dozens of trays of baklava. Homemade baklava. I shit you not, I beelined for the nearest tray, but decided that it was rude not to try any of the others, so I grabbed a couple from each tray. I didn't know that the women who had made each tray of baklava were nearby, and watched me enthusiastically grab from each tray, and came over to ask me how everything was. I have found a chair, and am now surrounded by 4 very happy aunties telling me their recipes, and what else they made, and how happy they are that I like everything. And try this, you will like this. I'm honestly living my best life, but eventually I have to get up and use the washroom. I walked by the front doors and hear a while. I know that wail. That's a Rebecca wail. My boyfriend and I go outside, and sure enough, Rebecca is stumbling through the parking lot, wailing into her phone and at James. We gather that Ron has fucked off back to the hotel and that Rebecca texted him telling him, Jennifer said he's a terrible boyfriend or something like that. And now Ron has threatened Jennifer with some sort of violence. And now James is raging about how is going back to the hotel to beat the shit out of Ron, and Rebecca is wailing at James to not do it. Because love, I guess. James is, thankfully, unable to get a cab, but keeps trying. While he is trying to hail a cab, I tried to calm him down. It's now after 1 a.m, and we are supposed to be staying in their hotel room with them. James starts drunkenly ranting about how his family has ties to the mafia, and how much of Ron's shit he is going to fuck up, and how no one talks to Jennifer that way. He is incapable of calming down. I switch to Jennifer, who, unfortunately, is too far gone at this point, and insisting this is what has to be done. Because reasons. My boyfriend, who had been observing silently up until this point, hears Rebecca wailing about how Ron always does this. He ruins everything. He snaps and replies, "Didn't you bring him knowing he would do this?" Well, now he is Rebecca's target. She switches back and forth between wailing about Ron and James and snidely insinuating that some people need to mind their own business. After another 20 minutes or so of me trying to calm Jennifer and James down, my boyfriend calls me over and says, "Fuck this, let's go." I felt awful making him drive back, but he insisted there is no way we can stay in the J's room. At best, we would get no sleep. At worst, we would be in the middle of a very physical fight. Kendra is currently playing drunken cheerleader to both sides. If Keith was there, we don't remember it. We still don't know where Sarah and Scott are, but don't really care either. I was able to get a hold of the Jay's spare room key, and we go back into the wedding to grab our jackets bags. There is Adina and Edmund, sitting at their table, happily chatting with each other and eating dessert, firmly in their own lane. The true cinnamon rolls of this story. We said our goodbyes to them. I wanted to say goodbye to the bride, but I knew she would be able to tell something was up, and I was hoping she didn't know what was going on outside, and I didn't want to ruin her night. So we left, and I decided to text her the next day. We get a shuttle back to the hotel. I quickly change out of my dress and heels, and we get my boyfriend's car and drive back to the venue to drop the spare key back off. Everyone is still crying and wailing, with James screaming into his phone at Ron. As a joke, my boyfriend tells me, "You're welcome," as in you're welcome for not being a Ron or James. I seriously thank him, and we start driving away. We are finally home free, we are safe, it's all over now. Nah. As we pull out of the venue, we finally see Scott and Sarah. They seem to be trying to leave as well, but Scott had driven his fancy, rare-ish sports car, and apparently it stalled at the bottom of the hill before the turn onto the road. Before we get to them, we see Sarah stumble off into the bushes towards the venue. My very car-smart boyfriend stops and asks if they need a bump start. Scott starts replying no, and that CAA is coming, when Sarah bursts out of the bushes, crying hysterically. It was mostly unintelligible nonsense, makeup and tears streaming down her face, her hair a mess, but it was clear it was mostly about Scott and how terrible he is to her. She then turns around, still wailing, and wanders back into the bushes. Scott just looks done, defeated, and dead sober. He looks us in the eyes and says, "Thanks anyway." My boyfriend rolls up the window and we pull out onto the road, silent, staring straight ahead. I quietly say, "You're welcome," and he replies a quiet, "Thank you." The next day I texted the bride, and by now she knew all about it. Apparently, Ron took Rebecca's car and drove back to our hometown, leaving her stranded. The poor, innocent Ease had to drive her back. It seems the Jays figured it out with the R's by 5 a.m.-ish, so no actual physical violence happened. Still don't know how the K's and S's ended their night. I just know we ended the night safe in bed far, far away.